Oh my God, Ben, how have you been?
Hey man, we're doing fine. I'm doing fine. We're doing fine. And dude, boy, Fabolous just went in, man.
Oh my God, it was so awesome.
Man, it's crazy. And I'm just so glad, we don't have to hear anything, just no woke bars, just him going straight in, man. Shouts out to Happy Mom.
Oh my God, Ben, yes. Oh my God, oh my God. Happy Mom, Happy Mom, Happy Mom. All I do is support Happy Mom. In fact, I have even a mail jar that says Happy Moms. So shout out to the Happy Moms out there.
All right, guys, for your latest information and your latest updates and hip hop entertainment, man, because you guys know that we're the culture, man. And so, please hit the like button and subscribe.
Oh, wait. And also, I just have to say this. Oh my God, Ben. I replaced the N word with Drake.
Yeah, nigga, you know what it is. Jimmy's! Yeah, you saw what we did right there, nigga. Monkey! Hey, yo, Fifth one out, be out here trolling and everything. What we talk about, niggas? I got spitters out there, man. You saw what we do. We got the young niggas come through like Dave East. We even got my old head nigga, my friend, Mano! Senior citizen! And then, of course, I always got to keep some snipers on deck. Fab came through and did his things. Let's see what Fifth gonna do. Monkey Unit! Poland on the crimes! Yo, at the end of the day, niggas, we always gonna do what we gonna do. You know what I'm saying? And so, I'm gonna toss it up to them at the end of the day. They the landlords. You know what I'm saying? But we making money over here. Poland!
The champ is here!
Warning. The Federal Communications Commission has determined the following content to be emotionally harmful. Snowflakes should not view this content under any circumstances, even if supervised by a G.I. Joe, Navy SEALs, Army vet, or someone with good common sense. The views and opinions expressed, including the depictions of persons of color, corrupt politicians, white people with or without a tan, haters, who have yet to brush their teeth typing angrily in the comment section with hot breath syndrome, do not reflect any official policy or position of the U.S. government. This program contains graphic language, dark comedy, unique intelligence, creativity, a high credit score, and high blood pressure when triggered. This program has also been accused of racism, violence, misogyny, mansogyny, feminism, MGTOWism, defacement of celebrities, and of course, being a bully. Welcome to Thought Crimes.
Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Thought Crimes. This is your girl, Sincere, and I'm here with...
Yo, what's up, everybody? This is your man, P. Solo, Prince Solomon, back in the building again. Ladies and gentlemen, the Punchline King is back outside.
Girl,
Fabulous.
You be killing it.
Yep,
you be killing it, girl. You be killing it.
Loso's Way. Fabulous got in the booth. Of course, the Let's Rap About It podcast, all of them. That's Jim Jones, that's Mano, then there was Dave East, and then ending off as the headliner was Fabolous. And they all chose different instrumentals from 50 Cent's discography.
Now, one thing we was talking about last time is when we was dissecting the 50 Cent situation, Prince, and all this, we said people need to play to their strengths. 50 Cent hasn't really been focused on music directly for a really long time. He's a mogul now, producer, all this type of stuff. But with their strength, they have people who can rap. Dave East is part of the millennial class that came out with Nipsey and Big Crit and with Kendrick, Drake, Cole, and all that. And then you have, of course, Fabolous, who is remembered at a favorable part in time of corporate hip hop, where you still had a lot of dope albums at that time, and had a lot of people who can also have a single. And Fabolous was always known to be able to have a nice fusion with hip hop and R&B. So to see him, stand out and have his way isn't really surprising, because Fabolous can rap.
Yeah, so my personal opinion, I think that, Dave East, Baltimore Love Freestyle, I thought it was pretty dope. I actually thought it fit better with him sonically too, so I think he should definitely continue to lean into more of that type of production. But yeah, at that point in time, Fabolous getting in the booth, and it did remind me, because I've heard some tracks from Fabolous not too long ago. I think he had one where he was in Wyoming in some cowboy boots he was rapping. But the other one was, I think the one where he was in Saudi Arabia. But Fabolous is a punchline king. And that is why he's pretty much been more relaxed, because I don't think he cares as much, but he is going to address it. But the bars and the punchlines, and then the some of the rhyme schemes that he was using, it did remind me of a time when people used to just really get in the booth and spit like that. It's the conversation that we've had for a minute about rappers, like just rapping. Jim Jones is always going to be Jimmy, to be honest with you. Mano did his thing as well. But yeah, them leaning into being able to get in the booth. And the crazy part about all of this is that, the rappers have now become Rap City, Rap City, Rap Basement, that type of stuff, where they used to have like a host and then they would get into the booth and rap. But now they get their own podcast so they can get into the booth and rap as well. So I think it was a good moment. I think they actually flipped something, and they didn't get too serious about it. They didn't get too sensitive. And Fabolous got in there and showed out, used it as a marketing.
Yeah, I do think like that's what they need to keep it at. It's not about really being serious and all that. Nobody cares about that shit. I do have to tap the old heads a little bit, because they making it seem like the antics is for the younger generation, but it's a bunch of Gen Xers, and they always was about the bullshit. People forget that some people wouldn't even go straight for bars against Jay-Z. They would troll. That's actually something that Dipset was known for. Yeah, you had Cameron, who can actually spit, but a lot of the time, and also Jules. But you also had a lot of times people just trolling, people like Nas, or trolling people like Jay-Z. Although Nas did come and spank Capo's behind. But I don't think 50 Cent is going to be lyrically responding to this. I think that 50 may, either move on altogether, or he may try to bring up certain things, like when Ray J tried to humiliate Fabolous on when he was like talk about some booty gang, whatever Ray J Crazy Butt was doing. And then of course you have the whole thing where Diddy was talking about eat the cake to Fab. But nonetheless, I do think that their podcast made the right strategic move, and that's something that we talked about in our 50 Cent live show. Play to your strengths, keep it light. This shouldn't be anything serious. People shouldn't be thinking that this is World War III. This is something light and fun, and I think they executed it well.
Gen X rappers are emotional, though, so you never know. You just never really know, to be honest with you. I think Fab got busy. I ain't gonna lie, though. Hearing him rap, I was like, man, you don't really hear punchlines at the punchlines at the punchlines at the punchlines. And, he comes from that early Lloyd Banks era, before Dr. Dre gave him the bad advice about changing his rap voice. I thought that was bad advice, because Lloyd Banks had a bit of a style that was a little bit similar to Fabolous as far as their punchlines go. He just had a deeper voice. But he actually threw some shots in there. Fab was throwing a lot of subs in there. He was definitely throwing a lot of shots in there.
50 Baby Mama.
Yeah. And 50 Cent on his YouTube channel released some sort of AI video, where the video was AI, but the song, I think it was with him and Shaq G and some other people. Wasn't a bad song, but it didn't really make no noise, because again, Fab definitely stole the show, going back to his no competition era, Funeral Fab, Bury the Competition. That was the mixtape series too, by the way. So I think he got busy. I think it was a good jaw tap, to get back at him. We'll see where it goes from here, but we know for a fact. I know for a fact, Fabolous, 50 Cent can't. He ain't gonna be able to. Maybe at the most, he might be able to keep up with Mano and Jim Jones, but Fabolous, that's a whole nother stratosphere lyrically. But yeah, they both got busy. They all got busy in the booth, and it's good to see that. It's good that you use this moment to put out some real bars, real hip hop.
Yeah, he definitely can keep up with Jim Jones and with Mano. And to your point, with Fab, Fab is a punchline king. That's something, one of them. And like you said, also when you brought up some other heavyweights in the game, and I know some people saying, well, Fabolous is irrelevant. When Prince and I was talking, I was like, musically, I don't believe Fabolous is irrelevant. Yeah, he did say that corny crap when he said anybody who don't like Honestly Nevermind are broke project rats while rapping in front of the projects. So, I don't like when rappers do that fake bougie stuff when, they got fucked up teeth and everything. And then trying to make money off of the projects and all that. It's like, bro, pick one. But this is Fabolous strength right here. And when you see him going out there focusing on the music, that's what they need to have more on their podcast. Like, Fabolous got to put more singles out. Like, their intro should be Fab. Like, and they need to, be able to exploit that more.
Yeah, no, Fab wouldn't be relevant because, he's largely built on a template that Mace and LL Cool J have built on. It's just that they are more lyrically dense. And Fab's DNA, just like Mace's DNA, it's all in the Drakes. It's all in Wale. So, no, he's not irrelevant. And Fab hadn't really, quote unquote, fell off. Now, I think Fab and 50, they kind of got some light issues anyway, because one time 50 was dissecting his career and saying, Fab never really had that moment, that big moment. And, we got to keep that in mind. In reality, 50 Cent did have a huge moment, but Interscope was a mammoth at that time, too. So, they could switch over from, Eminem and Aftermath 2001 Up in Smoke Tour to what we saw ending off with 50 Cent, that whole 50 Cent run, the G-Unit run. But, no, Fab's DNA is in a lot of rappers, just like Mace and LL Cool J. So, I don't really think that. I think he just pretty mostly, he's been chilling. But one of the lyricists that, again, like I stated earlier, there are certain types of lyricists when they get older, they sound better or their mind is always fresh. And then there's certain type of rappers, they kind of drag on the beat a little bit. So as they get older, but no, Fab is always a spitter. I do consider him the punchline king in hip hop, and I only use that in the context that I have never heard a rapper just do punchline after punchline after punchline after punchline. I know people like to go all the way back to Lord Finesse, but we're talking about an advancement in the gameplay, an advancement in the style. And again, like I stated earlier in some other video, it's kind of like the advanced techniques. Michael Jordan, the Don on the court, the Don with the bill, but we got to keep that in mind. What Allen Iverson was doing at the time was an advanced technique, and I think that's how you should look at the punchlines when you're seeing them move forward with each generation. I definitely feel Fab is the punchline king in hip hop.
I'll meet 50 Cent halfway, but not all the way on that. Fabolous did have moments. Now, did he take advantage of them as much as he could? When he had Holla Back, or when he was having tracks with Anne-Marie and, things that were hits. Lil Mo, maybe he could have taken more advantage of it, but like you stated, where I break away is you on an Interscope machine.
Yes,
so
that was pretty big.
That's a big machine when you're talking about Eminem, 50 Cent, Kendrick Lamar, The Game. Like when Interscope is backing you, I'm not saying 100% of the time, but at the very least, you're going to get at the beginning of your career a big push, even with what we saw with DaBaby. So I will say this. I'll say that when you're an Interscope artist or partnered with Interscope or connected to Interscope in any way, One thing that side is really good at is getting your name out there. And so 50 Cent saying that is a pretty interesting thing. But I would say Fabolous has had a pretty good career nonetheless without having the Interscope machine directly connected to him. And he did do a good job. I'm not a crybaby about 50 Cent's trolling at antics. I think a lot of people in hip hop troll. Cameron is a troll. 50 is a troll. Pusha T is a troll. Some of the trolls still are lyrically deadly, like when we were talking about Pusha T. Some of the trolls are more in retirement, like what we're talking about with 50 Cent. But nonetheless, it is interesting to see a lot of older heads in hip hop acting like this trolling thing is a young people thing. It's not.
No, that was the case, then what is Jim Jones with Nas? That was trolling. You get what I'm saying? And actually, you had more of the younger generation that was tired of Jim Jones trolling. So
it was too far fetched.
Yeah,
That's why
it was unbelievable. It was some Paul Bunyan shit. It was unbelievable. Nobody believed him. That's enough, Jim. Shave. You get what I'm saying? But with that being the case, I think Fab got busy. I think one of the things that he was able to do was make a distinction from himself versus Jay-Z. And I think people got to keep that in mind because 50 Cent didn't sound like Jay-Z at the height of his career. He sounded nothing like him. He sounded nothing like Fabolous. 50 Cent kind of had a hybrid thing. Sometimes he kind of, because of the bullet in his mouth, he had like a southern drawl. Sometimes he would play into more of the Geechee energy with some of the West Coast vibe-ish hooks and things of that nature. Fab came out, he was just a traditional New York rapper. He was a traditional New York mixtape king. And I think at the time, Jay-Z was on his Blueprint 3 leg of his career. And Jay-Z still had a lot of prominence where a lot of rappers were being, by default, coming out of New York, they were being compared to Jay-Z, like the Joe Buddens and, to some extent, the Paul Kanes and the Red Cafes and all of these guys that came out around that time. And Fabolous came through that mixtape circle with DJ Envy, and he was able to make an imprint or an identity, and he leaned in more to the ladies' charm. Like Jay-Z leaned into it at times with Maya, but Jay-Z will go back to talking about I lost 92 bricks. Fab leaned all the way into making songs with The Dream and what was the other guys, Jagged Edge and all that type of stuff. So he kind of played more into like the ladies' charm, or at least making songs for the women. That's why that part is where I say he's had an influence over the likes of Drake too, by the way. So yeah.
Oh yeah, you saw the Champagne Poppy.
Yeah,
when Fab did it. That was fire.
Yeah, so look, man, it's just he got busy, but I do think that's one thing you got to give him credit for in his career, coming behind Jay-Z, because there was a lot of spitters. I think people forget about it. There was a lot of spitters that jumped off that mixtape circuit, and the minute the rest of America felt like you sounded like Jay-Z, they was like, I'm not interested.
And then everybody was wearing jerseys at that time.
Yeah.
So and Fab and Jay-Z wore jerseys the most.
They did.
So people was like, they was definitely at one time really comparing them. But I do think that, to your point, he did maintain his own energy. But I also would say Fabolous also, he influenced a lot of people in hip hop. Like even what you see with Drake, what you see with Wale. Yeah. There's certain people who, when you hear them on an R&B track or with an R&B singer on their track, it's annoying. But when you have people like Fabolous, you have people like Wale. Sometimes at J. Cole's strongest, you hear it when him and Miguel. And what's interesting, years ago we said him and Miguel should do an album together, and Miguel is flirting with that idea. I hope they do an album together. And also when J. Cole featured on Janet Jackson's song, that was fire. So like you also talked about with LL Cool J. Look, there's some people who are really influential when it comes to the R&B and hip hop fusion. Even before Diddy trying to take claim, you had Houdini, you had so many acts in hip hop a long time ago that was able to have this beautiful fusion with whether electronic sound and rapping and R&B and so at his best Fabolous did represent that because every time he jumped on the track he never got on my nerves when he was featured on the R&B track or when an R&B singer was on his track. Even like one of the last big moments is when people forget, but with Fabolous and with Neo, you know, you make me better by myself. But you see what I'm saying? So it's like Fab can do this in his sleep, and when we're talking about a space where people trying to do their own thing right now, like he should also be focusing on making those hip hop R&B tracks that people like, but also of course doing also what he does best is giving straight bars and like you said punchlines. You always, you know, I always loved hearing your hip hop breakdowns because you will break a lot of this stuff down, and you know hopefully you know we'll get a video from you really dissecting Fabolous career because you know I think you're really good at it.
Oh no, I appreciate that. You know, likewise as well. I just, you know, a lot of the antics get talked about because look, everybody's on the internet, so that's what people are doing. But when it comes to bars, and you know, when people, you know, they'll hear me talk about stuff and they're like, "Well, you don't think this, that, third." Like you have to think about. I think people understate that era that Fab and even Lloyd Banks comes from, and all of them guys, and even early Tip or mid career Tip. Those guys was really spitting, so you couldn't just say it's this guy. It was a very competitive environment. I know people like to throw it around like, you know, oh, rappers are competitive today or MCs are competitive. They're competitive in everywhere else but what you see Fab was doing, because Fab and Lloyd Banks was competitive on the mixtapes. They didn't all the time. They might have some subs here and there, but they weren't like trying to end each other's career. But okay, I heard what you just said. That's crazy. Let me go over here and just flip this and do it that way. So yeah, you know, Fab always was able to merge the R&B, and he would give. And the reason why people got to throw Wale up under Fab in the sense of like the influence, because LL gave you those beautiful joints with Total, right? LL would play more into the story he's trying to tell you, like, you know, your man is too busy working hard, he's trying to make a lot of money, let me take you off his hand for a second, right? That type of stuff, right? It was dusty, but LL was clean when he did it, but it was dusty nigga shit, right? But when you think about like when Fab and he would, you know, have this merger with R&B, he still would give you like lyrically dense bars, and I'll always notice that's where Wale pulls from, because Wale will give you those love joints, those love ballads like LL, but Wale's wordplay, he would always keep it active, keep it going. Like, you know, he just wants to make sure he keep the hip hop listeners as well, but make sure you placate to the guys and the girls that just want to relax. And Fab has always been dope with that. And like you stated, I always felt just like, you know, J. Cole need to drag his flip-flops in the studio with Miguel and make an album. I always felt Neo and Fab should have done an album together.
Yeah, I mean, Wale has a really good discography, you know, and I haven't heard not one bad R&B fusion with him, you know. Wow, That's Crazy in 2019. You know, he also had the mixtape About Nothing, you know, had people like SZA on there. You know, The Gifted with having people like Miguel on there and Ambition. That came out in 2011. So they look, you know, there are a lot of people who know how to really be in the pocket when it comes to R&B and hip hop. And then you also have people who also can give you that corner store bar for bar type of hip hop or at the bodega. And that's the danger of Fab.
Yes.
Fab can give you beautiful R&B hip hop tracks, but he can also just straight up bar, like you said, like what we used to see on BET.
Yeah.
He was able. That's why his career could have been bigger, but again, it depends on what record label is behind you. Look at Big Crit. Big Crit.
Yes.
catalog is spotless.
It's spotless.
He has the best catalog in hip hop for the millennial class, along with Kendrick. But Big Crit has the label issues. Big Crit had the whole Def Jam issue. And I think Fabolous is someone who, of course, he could have been big because bigger than what he is musically, because he made the type of music that is hits. Like you said, the type of music like when Drake was at his best with Abel with The Weeknd, or when he would partner up with some really good R&B writers and R&B singers. And have that mainstream appeal.
Yes.
Like Fab was doing music. That's why even though he wasn't on like a functioning machine, because by the time you were Def Jam and stuff at that time, 2001, all that type of stuff, you're like, come on, Def Jam mismanaging everything.
Yeah.
But
they mismanaged Ghostface. like his GFK. Like how did you mess that up?
But he was making music that it has easy crossover appeal.
Yeah, and another thing too, just to add to that, like to break this down, he's one of the few where they've aged gracefully on the mic. Like I'll give you an example. Sometimes when Nelly hops on stuff, it definitely feels like it feels dated sometimes. You get what I'm saying? Now I know he's working on a project with Metro Boomin, so see how that goes, and help him be more flexible with his flow and everything. But
St. Louis, stand up.
Yeah, right. But Fabolous, you can easily throw Fabolous on a song with The Weeknd right now. Nobody will feel the difference. Fabolous has been quietly aging gracefully on the mic.
Abel, do it.
Yeah. So you can throw him in there right now, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, the punchlines and to the point, people do kind of get hyped up, because now even with 50 hit the earth like an asteroid. But then, between Get Rich or Die Trying and The Massacre, which most of these productions was pulled from, and I think the joint that Fabolous was rapping on was from the Terminate on Sight G Unit album, which wasn't a bad album, actually, to be honest with you. I think it was one of their better albums. But 50 Cent's discography, it immensely declines right around The Massacre or after The Massacre, to be honest with you. And the original Massacre was supposed to have This Is How We Do and Hate It or Love It, which I think would have given 50 Cent his second classic if you remove Candy Shop. You get what I'm saying? But
some people still would say it's as a classic, but to your point, sometimes people can be more stricter, and I don't like the Candy Shop either. I don't like that song.
Candy Shop is,
I don't like that song.
Actually, I was listening to The Massacre. That's what I think is ironic all this is happening, because I was listening to The Massacre a couple days ago, and I think it's the instrumental is not that bad. I just think it's the hook and the theme of the song. I agree. This is how crazy Fab's flow is. You can put Fab on the Candy Shop instrumental, he could make it a different song.
Because he's buttery smooth with it.
Yes.
Like with 50, I think 50 is a strong writer, but the problem with 50 is he's more conceptual, and he's not like the strongest lyricist, though. And some people will get confused by that. What I mean by that, when you go look at his debut and sophomore album, 50 Cent, concepts are crazy. Stories are crazy.
Yeah.
But he was never the best lyricist. But those two things he's really strong at.
Yeah.
And you see, this is why he has a great eye for film as a producer and different things like that. But if you talk about
Bars.
What will get people going immediately, of course it's gonna be Fab. This is one of the reasons why Rick Ross always had a stronger edge in the battle that he had with 50 Cent. Yeah, 50 Cent did the skits, he did his antics, but you can already tell when he was going at it with Rick Ross, he was already losing interest in rapping being his main thing. And even when he had his massive 2 albums, people forget 50, when you go look in the background information, 50 Cent was already looking to enterprise big. He already was having one foot out the door in hip hop back then. So we'll see what happens, but nonetheless, I think it's all entertaining. I think the antics online and the bars are both entertaining. And also, this has always been a thing in hip hop. Like, bar people don't act brand new. People were watching and looking when Pac was talking about smacking directors and stuff with Ed Lover. You know, y'all always been about the antics. What we talking about? But there also was always also bars to balance it out.
Yeah,
because humans are humans. You know, and artists are artists. They're gonna be explosive. You know, some are gonna go into in the booth directly first. You know, some are gonna do other things before getting in the booth, and then some are gonna try not to get in the booth at all.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the antics have always been there. Daddy Kane in his Tarzan underwears, you know.
That was crazy, yeah.
And I mean, that's a lot. Naomi Campbell and Madonna, that antics high right there, level 10. But yeah, look, I mean, I'm not sweating any of it. I just think, you know, I was actually happy to hear Fab spitting, you know. Definitely one of the faves on the mixtape circle, and to the point. You know, and they all come from the same era too. So I want to be clear about that. It's not random. Like 50 Cent and Fabolous and Jim Jones and even Mano, they're all from the same graduating mixtape class. You know, so it's just that they're older now. 50 don't feel like rapping like that. He does still occasionally put out some music here and there. The joint that he just uploaded a day ago, you know, didn't really sound bad, but it wasn't definitely a scene stealer like what you saw right now with Fabolous, you know. And I do want to say, I thought Dave East sounded very fresh. You know, I think the Baltimore Love instrumental from The Massacre fit Dave East's voice perfectly. You know, Mano was just there to tell people that who cares if I'm old.
Yeah.
You know,
I do want to see more people. I want to see Dave East partner up with more people from his class, though. More millennials. I know when he first came out, he did it a lot with Nipsey, R.I.P. But I would like to see him, you know, surprise us. I mean, like, I don't know, have him and Big Crit just hop on something, or him and Wale, or just surprise us with something. I'm not saying he has to live off of that, but I'm just saying that would be nice to see. And I also like the fact that all three of them know that Fabolous is the premier MC out of the four, though. I like that they don't have that jealousy, or at least that's what it seems like. Like they already understand that Fabolous carries that crown in that particular room with them. So I do like that. It seems like that it's that understanding.
You know, it's a good point, and I think, you know, listening, and I think this is where it works about the whole concept of play into the strengths. You know, these are all street life, to some degree, street life vibe artists, but they just coming from New York. So we know Mano is more like, you know, I'll put my hands on you. I take this serious, this, that, and third. This is integrity. This is what I stand on. It's the more less lyrical version of what you used to get early on with T.I. T.I. whole thing was integrity, and I'll out-rap you to death, but I'm about integrity until everything else that happened with him, right? But the same thing goes for Jim Jones is, you know, fashionista. I like to, you know, dress this, that, and third. Nobody's fly to me. Nas ain't fly to me. And even though Jim does get on hip-hop people's nerves with his antics, everything he does to me is 100% New York, because only a New Yorker would look at Nas and say, I can rap better than you, and he doesn't rap better than him, right?
Yeah.
So and you got to keep in mind, like, a delusion is a part of the Empire state of mind. You got to keep that in mind. You can make it here, you can make it anywhere, right? And Dave East, like you stated, you know, guy on the corner, millennial guy coming in, and he's had his ties to certain things as well. I think it works better because at the end of the day, they all kind of chill. They're not trying to be as super lyrical. I will tell you this. People got to understand this. You're actually going to get you're going to get more diva action or Devo action from super lyrical guys if you put all of them in a group together. Like, think Slaughterhouse, right? You know, they all were assassins, but it really, like, it got out of hand. And with this situation, if people know where their strengths are, and everybody, they already know when they're going in the booth, they already know Fab is about to kill it.
And he did.
You know what I'm saying?
And also, I would say this is about is magicianship. You know, when it comes to art, it's about the art of war. And with 50, you know, what 50's strength is he would have to do like a skit that looks really good if he cares about all of this. He may move on, but if he does still care, if he can make a comedic skit of the days leading up to the interview with Fab and Diddy and Jada, and then when Diddy was like, I like the way you do that, daddy, and all that, and we having party, and actually make it funny, he may get something out of this, but it's a gamble because it has to be funny. And if it's funny, like, that's why I said, like, people be like, oh, it's about people are not about the BS. Most people are about the BS, even the older generations of hip hop. And if he can make that happen and make it funny, people would enjoy Fabolous freestyle and still also enjoy that comedic skit from 50 if he executes it well, though, because everything's about execution. You know, Ab-Soul is a really good rapper, but you saw, you know, when he was with Kai, did not execute, right? We've seen when it comes to anything in art, it's always about an angle. And if you have the right angle, but you don't execute, it's still a failure. If you have the right angle and you execute, it's a home run. So we saw, you know, Fabolous do that home run in the booth. We'll see what 50 Cent does next, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna be able to do it. You know, I actually, you know, you're right about that. The comedy thing, it's just comedy is 50 Cent is best when he's the troll that's doing the response.
Troll in Central City.
Yeah, that's him. You know, he doesn't meet the moment with comedy. You know, just in general, he can be funny, but again, the funniness has to do with like him trolling people.
The situation, yeah,
that's why it was shocking with the Marlon Wayne situation. That's why people was like, "Wait, what?" Because for me, like 50 is not like that's not like clearly Kevin Hart that's a bit more stake going back and forth online. You got to kind of go in your bag a little bit.
Maybe Fab not on the tape. Maybe he's saying he can rap because he ain't on the tape. Maybe he's saying that. I don't know.
The way he rapping, yeah. So I don't know. I think 50, if he does do anything, it will fall flat if he tries to do the trolling thing, and I think he'll just end up looking stupid in the process. So
if he goes on Instagram and Twitter and just troll, he actually has to do something cinematically. Yeah. Like, it gotta be funny and it has to really hit. But to what we're saying here, he may not want to put in that much work for just sort of a small effect.
Yeah. No, that is something 50 does. You can tell, like, when you look at something with him,
he'd be lazy sometimes.
Yeah, because think about when Rick Ross kept getting too many shots off on him this last go round. 50 said whatever.
No, yeah, 50 Cent he's not like The Game. He's not like Joe Budden. He's not like those guys who are long-winded, and he's not even long-winded when it comes to some of his troll antics. Like, once there's a break in the rhythm, it breaks. You know, so it's gonna be interesting to see what happens.
So it's all lighthearted. They all got, you know, they took advantage of the moment. But Fab definitely killed it, and I'm gonna be real with you all to tell you how much he did kill it. Look, it's been a long time since you've seen somebody's verse just trend. You get what I'm saying? So, again, it just, you know, good old days like hip-hop and stuff like that, mixtape circuits, or when you download the stuff off different websites and things like that. But, yeah, he definitely got busy.
And one last thing, Prince, I'll say, if their podcast is smart, Fab needs to keep executed in this way. He should respond to everything with music. Because he actually makes really good music.
Yeah, he does. And, you know, it'll be good because we see what Cam and them are doing over there. But it's just a different level with Fab because he keeps people interested with the punchlines and things of that nature. So, yeah, you know, hey, it's a good show out. Great bars. And looking forward to seeing what 50 does or doesn't do. All right? But, yeah, 50 he's really having to count how many hats he's throwing into different battles. He's definitely putting in overtime. All right, y'all.
Peace out, everyone. Thank you for supporting our channel. And, of course, the music that you're going to be hearing later in the show is going to be by DJ L.
And I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow.
Oh my God, what's this? Elvie?
And I sing happy. And I sing happy. And I sing happy. And I sing
Perhaps you shouldn't turn your back on me.
Is that a challenge?
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
White folks are nosy. They have specials. Nosy specials. Why does a bee make honey? You ain't a bee. Why do you give a fuck?
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
If he dies, he dies.
Go to our Patreon for more. And don't bother me.